Can you tell me your full name and a little bit about where you're from?
Yeah, Andrew Preston, born and raised here, Paintsville, Kentucky.
What was it like growing up here?
Uh, Nearly perfect. Grew up in downtown on 2nd Street, went to Paintsville City Schools. Football, basketball, baseball. As I got older, mostly football. But it was a dream, man. Walked to school every morning, walked home every day. My dad owns a business locally, so very much so, at least knowing everybody in the community for the most part.
Yeah. What are some of your earliest memories of town?
Riding bikes mostly, man. I mean, of course, the big ones, the Apple Festival, Santa Claus riding the Christmas truck around town. But yeah, I mean, to choose any specific, it would be hard because every memory I have is downtown. It was where I lived my entire life. So,
What does a normal day in your life look like right now?
yeah, so I'm a huge fitness enthusiast. Have been for my entire adult life, but usually, depending on the time of year, I go running in the morning. I've got a friend that we actually lift weights 4 or 5 days a week. So that's gym therapy for me. And then it's kind of off to the races with the businesses. So we own Kentucky Real Estate Investments, and we rent apartments all across the city and the county. And that's usually base number one. So we check in with the office and make sure that that business is operating correctly, and what can we do as far as tenant outreach and making sure that we're optimizing the properties that we have. And then from there, it's a checklist. It's going from location to location, Baywash Coin Laundry, Tropical Isle, Paintsville, Fitness Plus, meeting with staff members, just generally trying to be on site at the businesses themselves, interacting with customers and people that are coming in and out of there. In a small community, you can't remotely operate anything because everything is as valuable as the interactions that you have with the people that are there. I know everybody that we serve on a first name basis in every apartment, and mostly everybody that comes into that laundromat and that tanning salon. So it's expected to be seen and to be there and to be involved with people. While there's more things than I can count on one hand that I have to touch on a daily basis, it's very much so important that everything is involved every day.
Very good, man. How would the people who know you best describe you?
Yeah, so I guess it depends on how far back you go. I wasn't always as advantageous about business, which takes up most of my life at this point. But I was always really a go-getter. Now the directions that was aimed, shifted over time. But I think that the people that know me the best today and the people that have known me the longest, really it's been kind of an evolution, because I feel like I've been 4 or 5 guys. I'm a musician originally, and that was honestly a huge portion of my life for years and years, which I still play, and unfortunately not as much as I would like to. But I'm more creative than what my bio would insinuate. Not just business for sure. However, as I've gotten older, I've kind of shifted my interest in creating things to business, a serial entrepreneur, I guess, if you will, and that's kind of become my passion. So the people that know me the best, I would certainly think that it's honesty. My word is, I tell my son all the time that if you don't have anything if you don't have your word. So I feel as if that would definitely be base number one. Consistency is another thing that I'm big on, and I feel like it's maybe the hardest thing to grasp for most people. But I kind of see life as you can either suffer now for the greater good, or you can suffer later as a result of what you weren't willing to do. So that's kind of, that's the way that I live life. And I think that the people who are closest to me, they definitely know that I put my money where my mouth is.
You may have just answered my next question, but I'll go ahead and ask it anyway.
Sure.
You may have a different answer. What's something about you most people wouldn't know just from seeing your name on a sign?
Yeah, I think whenever you become involved with business of any sort, and it has nothing to do with scale and it has nothing to do with quantity, but it's more so that anytime that you're doing anything that's public facing, that kind of becomes the identity that you assume. And it certainly is. I try to make sure that every business that we have, that it reflects, our values, obviously, but that you can see some of our personality in those things. However, I'll have to think on that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So when you think about what matters most in life, what comes to your mind first?
What matters most, always going to be God. Second, everything is second to that. However, I think that doing the absolute best and the absolute most that you can do every day is probably number one for me. I think that I'm plagued probably by FOMO a little bit, the fear of missing out. And as a kid, that propelled me, in a lot of ways to touch a lot of different things and try a lot of different things. But as an adult, I am not the kind of person that can sit still. So if I have a day where I don't feel like I've done, even being sick, I had a cold a couple of weeks ago, and even moments like that, that's what stress is for me. Stress for me isn't juggling all of the things that I juggle on a daily basis. It's more so if I feel like I haven't gotten to do everything that I should be doing. If that answers the question.
Yeah, that's good. Was there a specific moment or something that happened that made you decide to run for mayor, or has this been something that you've thought about for a while?
Yeah. Honestly, it's probably the most interesting thing that's ever happened to me. There were thoughts for quite a while, if I'm honest, but because I have so many other things that I can occupy my schedule with in its entirety, if I want to. It was really easy to place that idea on the back burner. However, I just talked to people, and I prayed about it, and it seemed as if there were green lights everywhere that I looked. And what I mean by that is, I had several different individuals, and then, groups of individuals that came to me and said, hey, I really wish that someone of your age, someone of your accomplishments would be willing to do this, as maybe a little bit different of a look than what we've traditionally had as leadership in town. And, while that's flattering, obviously, I'm a very humble guy, and I don't like to, I'm very much so in control of my life and the things that I've tried to do. And that's branched out to the people that I brought into my circle, my employees, my tenants, my constituents, the people that we serve. And I take their involvement as seriously as I take my involvement. However, the more that I started to look around, I just kind of had to ask myself the question, is there anyone that's more qualified than you to do this? And not that I don't think that there's other people that can do a fine job. This city is full of people that are really wonderful people. And to think that I'm the only guy that can do it, I have no vanity in that. So I don't want to suggest that I'm in any way better than anyone else. But the longer that I sat and really mulled that over, the more I realized that I don't think anybody has the willingness to do the hard things that have to be done like I do. And I think that people are creatures of habit for the most part. and we'll inevitably take the path of least resistance in most situations. And for better or for worse, I'm not that guy. Sometimes I suffer for that, but it's propelled me, and I know that when I get in that position, that I can execute that in a way that's more effective than I feel most people. I have the credentials and I have the experience of handling large amounts of money, large amounts of assets, being in rooms with people that are capable of greater things than me, which propelled me as well. I always felt as if surrounding yourself by people who have done more, seen more, felt more, and heard more than you, that creates what you are in the culmination. So my experience with taking something that is nothing and creating something that's great, creating something that's profitable, creating something that employs a family, creating something that puts food in children's mouths, puts a roof over their head. That's what I've built my entire career on, whether that's goods and services businesses, or that's apartments, or homes or townhomes, here and away from here. That's what I do, and I'm not a painter. I'm not a professional basketball player. I'm not many things. I'm a musician, maybe not a real good one, but I know without a shadow of a doubt that if I'm effective and efficient at anything, it's at taking something and growing it, especially when it pertains to business and when it pertains to community. And there are things that we can do in this town that can greatly benefit the people here, and it directly correlates with what I've been able to excel at. And I know that if, God willing, I'm given that opportunity, there's a very clear strategy that we can execute as a community to achieve a lot of the things that people want. And while I think it's important to always underpromise and overdeliver, people here need to know that this isn't just a town that once had economy as a result of coal. There's still people that live here, work here, make a great living here, raise wonderful families here. And I've been a lot of places, I travel a lot. There's virtue here for families that you can't find everywhere else. And if I wanted to leave Paintsville tomorrow, I could do it. If I wanted to leave this community and go start a different life somewhere, I could do it, as many people here could. But there's a reason why we stay, and it's this place. Something about this place is different than everywhere else. I have family that live in other states. I spend time in other places a lot. And the community that's here, because I think of the adversity that we've had to overcome in a lot of different ways, not just economically, that's the obvious one, but everything. I mean, we've had a lot of natural disasters here in recent years. There's a drug and a homelessness issue here, which we're all aware of, but this place is different. I had a foreign exchange student in 2019 that lived with us for a year, and she was from Finland, and she's actually from the capital of Finland, Helsinki, which is a major metropolitan area. And we were kind of curious to see how she would acclimate to living here, just because it's so much smaller. And whenever she came, there was certainly a little bit of a culture shock in some ways, but she and her family come here every year now. Like, this is like home to her. She spent one calendar year in high school, and this is where she wants to come to for Christmas. This is where she wants to come to in the summertime. This is where she wants to come back to in the fall for the Apple Festival. Because it only took 1 year of taking an individual from the other side of the globe to be here, to be in the school system, to see what the community and the culture was all about, to interact with the people here. And she feels like this is family. So for me to feel like, people that have just been born here and raised here are the only ones that could see the beauty in that, it's incorrect, and I've experienced that firsthand.
Very good. When you think about Paintsville's future, what worries you and what gives you hope?
Yeah, so There's some really obvious ones. I'll touch on the ones that I think that everyone can probably see. First and foremost, economics are huge. We have a major issue with career quality jobs here, and I'm an employer. I employ tens of people in this town, and while I'm so proud to be able to do that, I take that very seriously. And the employees that we have, most of them are employees that have been with us for a while. We always try to do the best we can for those people, but we have to have jobs here that are career quality jobs. We have an issue with homes here. Our housing market struggles in a lot of ways, and how do we get people in a position that they can make what is on average the single largest investment in any individual's life, as an American citizen, and that's the purchase of a home. Most people can't do that here because the requirements financially to be able to accomplish something like that requires income and stability in the way that only a career quality job can really do. So that to me is the biggest one, just because it's a domino effect for all the other things that people see really surfacely. If you scratch the surface, you certainly see that we lack amenities here. We don't have, if you watched my campaign announcement video, I touched on just a couple of things that I personally feel and that I hear vocally among the community that people really want all the time: bowling alley, movie theater, more quality restaurants, whatever it is, recreation, really, I guess. But I think that sometimes people don't see the correlation between that and having money in people's pockets. At the end of the day, man or woman, what a human being wants the most is purpose, and that's what a career gives them. Having a job of any type is important, and nothing of that is, I don't scoff at that whatsoever. I've had so many part-time jobs, but entry-level jobs are entry-level jobs, and the idea is that if somebody comes to work every day, they work an entry-level job, and they have the discipline, and they have the character, and they're able to execute the duties that are required, that they should be able to climb. And here we don't really have those opportunities. So, hopping forward, obviously that affects our housing market. It puts us in a position where our rental market is really more robust than housing. I have 51 apartments in Paintsville, and we have a waiting list of over 100 people at any given time. If I could buy 100 more apartments tomorrow, I would, but there's just not the real estate, and there's not the infrastructure currently existing to purchase. So, but what that tells me economically is people here, for a large demographic, can't buy homes, and our middle class is shrinking. You have families that are successful and make money and have money, and then you have a lot of families that don't have much of anything. And really the health of any community depends on how wide is that gap between the upper and the lower class, and we have to expand the middle class. Bringing career jobs in any capacity is where you start with that. Moving forward, going back to what I said about people having purpose and what kind of a role that a career job plays in that, then you end up with a community that a large portion of your people are kind of downtrodden and disheartened, and that translates to other issues. You end up with drug addiction, you end up with homelessness, which any community has that, and that's something that every community should take really seriously and try to solve to the best of their ability and help people. We're all human beings, but translating money in people's pockets and their stability, it's directly correlated with homelessness. It's directly correlated with people that struggle with drug addiction. So those are the two really big ones for me. And then once you get past the real human issues there, then there's some more lighthearted topics that really need to be addressed as well. Amenities are a big one. Everybody wants the movie theater, everybody wants the bowling alley, and I've talked to so many people about that. And people, I think, need to understand that we have to try to get money in people's pockets before we can have those amenities and enjoy them. It's difficult for private sector investors to come here and be able to sustain a business, get a loan from a banking institution to be able to open a business like that. When the people here struggle so much financially, how much can we utilize that? Fortunately, I think that there are things that we can do to make those things happen sooner. Government partnering with private investors and incentives that you can offer in the way of tax breaks and things like that. You can make it a lot easier for people to come here and really widen their margins so that people are willing to take a chance on our town and bring outside amenities in. But even moving to strictly governmental amenities, having more pride in the way that the city looks. You don't go everywhere and see some of the things that we struggle with as far as trash on the side of the road, or Paint Creek being in the shape that it gets at times. Just really obvious things. I run around town, and the sidewalks could be improved. We don't have walking access from downtown, where most of the people that live in city limits actually reside, for people to get from there to a grocery store, which is all in the Mayoral Plaza, of course. So then you end up with, unless these individuals want to walk on the side of the highway, or if they're disabled and they're riding in a wheelchair, electric scooter, or something like that, they're having to ride on highway right of way to get to groceries, which is an issue. It's a problem. It's dangerous for people, and I've seen women pushing strollers on the side of the highway trying to get to the grocery store. The only other alternative is to eat out of a gas station, which isn't what our people deserve, and I can't imagine that's what they want. So basic infrastructure would go a really long way here, and I think that the administrations that have been in office have done a wonderful job. I have nothing but good things to say about the current city government, the current mayor. I've known Coach Running for years and years and years, and I think that people, whenever he's no longer in office, people are going to really see that he was able to do a lot of really important things here, and that'll speak for itself then. But picking up where these individuals left off, and taking visions that were there before mine, and growing that. I'm not the type of person that operates off scorched earth. I don't want to come in, tear everything down, and rebuild it in the ideology of me. And that's what this is all about. I want to have dialogue with the people of this community, and I want to be a microphone to hear your voice, and then I want to be a mirror for you to see your reflection in. It's important that we all have a direct stake in what happens here, and that everybody feels as if their voice and their concerns are heard. And I think that the community has taken good steps to execute that in some ways.
What do you hope people will say about you if you win? And what do you hope people will say about you if you don't?
Yeah, so honestly, that was maybe the most difficult thing when considering whether I was going to do this at all, because I'll be honest, I hate the popularity contest side of all of it. I'm not a politician by trade, obviously. I am a business person, and in business and in all the other things that I've been involved in, I have robust morals, and my moral compass is always been very important to me. But I don't really think so much about what people feel about me. I try to be the best person I possibly can be. I try to have the greatest relationships with people that I can have. I try to make sure that whatever role I play in anybody's life that's impactful. Coaching is a big one. I coached 3rd and 4th grade football assistant coach for Paintsville, and we were 12-0 this season. I got to give a plug there, but even the relationships that I have with those kids, and then subsequently their parents that are involved with taking these kids to practice and the games and stuff. I try to be as impactful to everybody as I possibly can. But you know, I don't focus so much on what people think about me, and I try not to focus on having opinions about everybody else. More so that I really just want to do the job that speaks for itself. That's, you know, whatever reputation I have, which I don't spend much time thinking on. It's built on what I've been able to accomplish and the lives that I've been able to impact with people. And I just want what we're able to do to speak for itself, and you know, win some hearts and minds along the way. But you know, just be a human being and be as good as I possibly can to people.
What advice would you give a young person growing up here who wants to make a difference in the community?
Well, yeah, that was me, I guess. I think that the first, if I was to say one thing out of the gate, it would be, don't be disillusioned that opportunity only lies outside of Paintsville. I was told that the entire time that I was growing up. I was told a lot of things, but that wasn't the path that I took. You know, I stayed here, and you know, I worked McDonald's, I worked Walmart, I ended up, you know, I worked construction for a little while. Got into being a door greeter at the funeral home, worked my way up to funeral director. But there was always a path for me here. You know, I did Big Sandy for a little while. You know, education doesn't only lie outside of the city of Paintsville. But something else that I'm a huge advocate for is just general entrepreneurship. I think that entrepreneurship has been devalued a lot in really just American culture today. If anybody goes back, and I have these conversations with people all the time, if you go back far enough, at some point in your family lineage, I can almost guarantee that someone has owned a business. It may not have been your dad or your mom, but maybe an aunt or an uncle or your grandfather or grandmother, you know, and whatever that might have been. It might have been, you know, just a little convenience store on the side of the road, or it might have been a shoe store downtown or whatever, pizza place. But that was really ingrained in American culture. The value of the American dream is to create a life for yourself, create an income, be very self-sustainable, build and flourish. But now it's so disincentivized that I think that our children are kind of told that you have to get good grades, get a scholarship, and get out of here as quickly as possible if you want to have any opportunity. And I think that leaving for a time and getting an education, that's wonderful. It wasn't the path that I took, but you know, a lot of people have, and obviously, you know, getting a college degree is a great thing. I'm not in any way downing that, but not seeing that there's opportunity here, and the quality people, the young people that we lose to other larger communities in the state or out of state, it hurts our area, because we have so many good young people that could come here and start businesses. We have so many good young people that could come here and impact local businesses that already are here, that we lose that. So that would be the first thing that I would say to anybody, and I preach that to my son all the time. Like, don't think that the brain train is the only way to find success living in Paintsville. Unfortunately, he says that he wants to live here for the rest of his life, so that's another big stake in the game for me. We got to create a place that our kids can flourish. But outside of that, I would really drive home the importance of pride in the community, and I'm really thankful that it seems like the young people that I do interact with, they seem to have a lot of that. There were times when I was growing up where, you know, the economy was declining so rapidly after coal that there was kind of a dark cloud over this place, and now that struggle isn't as daunting, and I feel like people are opening their minds towards, you know, what are more opportunities we can have. And there's several small businesses in town that are owned by younger people and that have found success, you know, myself included. So yeah, I think that the most important thing is making sure that they're aware that success doesn't only lie outside the city walls, and that oftentimes the greatest investment that you can ever make is here, and building the community that built you, and raising your kids where you were raised, and giving them the same opportunities that you were given.
Okay, so finally, what message would you want to leave with the people that are watching this?
First and foremost, out of the gate, I really want to drive home and reiterate that this election and this job and this role, this position, it has to be more than a popularity contest. It's easy in small communities, especially, for any election or any position to be based on that. And while I'm fortunate to know, I feel, man, most people in this community, I don't want that to have any impact on how successful I am in this, and I would hope that it wouldn't have any impact on how successful any of the other people that are running for this office or any other office would be. We have to elect somebody that is able to come into that position and create growth here. It's pertinent, really, to the existence and the betterment of the future of the people that live here. We have to make an economy here, and we have to create a life that our 18-year-old kids don't want to leave the moment they graduate high school. I also want to really reiterate and drive home that it takes real qualifications to be able to do this. And while we've been fortunate, thus far to have some good quality leaders, that's not guaranteed every election cycle. So, I want people to understand that building an economy is not a small feat. It's something that people that have been in leadership here have tried to do for a long time. And we've made some gains and some successes, and I think there's a lot of things to be proud of. But picking that ball up and continuing with that takes somebody that has a record of being able to execute economically. Everything that I've done in life, and I've not been a success at everything by any means, and there's no vanity in me in any of that regard. But if I can do anything, and if I know unequivocally, without a shadow of a doubt, that I can be successful at, it is at taking something and making it profitable, and taking something and growing it. And I've demonstrated that to myself and to the people that work for me, to the people that live under the roofs that I'm thankful to be able to provide. I've been able to do that for those people, and I've been able to do that for my family. And I want to have the opportunity to be able to do that for Paintsville, because my stake in the game here is enormous. I have a 9-year-old son that is at Paintsville Elementary in the city school system. My family lives here, extended family. My friends are here. My heart and soul is here. And, even outside of businesses, everything that I have is invested here. And it's paramount that people see what it takes to be able to do the things and to acquire the things that we all want. It's not something that is going to happen overnight, and it's always important to underpromise and overdeliver. But I know that there are things that we can execute to make the changes that people want to see here. I have plans and strategies on how to do that, which hopefully as the election cycle goes on, we'll get to talk a little bit more about that. But there are things that we can do, and I have zero reservations about my ability to be able to do that. There are things in life that as any human does, that I get self-conscious about, but business has never been that, and that's how I knew that was what I wanted to do with my life, and that was what shaped the life that I live. It's my flow state. It's what I'm good at. It's what I know. It's what I'm effective at, and anybody that knows me will reiterate that. I would love the opportunity to speak with anybody regarding what they think the avenues are to execute any of this. But what I know for sure is that no one is going to be willing to sacrifice themselves in the way that I'm able and willing to sacrifice myself to be successful. And if Paintsville is if Paintsville and the position of leadership here is on my shoulders, then it will be successful because I refuse to be anything other than successful. And I just want people to have faith in that. I want people to have an understanding that the man that they elect is the best man for the job.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.